Hello, and welcome. No. Why, hello there. Okay, I spun too far. Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another day of Bookmas. Another day, another Bookmas, at least for the first 12 days of the month. We are doing our first sit-down video today, so I hope you guys are ready to talk about my favorite series that I read in 2023. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I just blanked on the year a little bit. I don't even know what year I'm in, don't even know what day it is. Honestly, I'm in the Bookmas haze, okay? It's not lavender haze, it's Bookmas haze right now. To go into a whole entire spiel about the sit-down videos that I'm excited to do in these next few days, weeks, what, I don't even know. I feel like the end and beginning of the year in BookTube, like there's so many different videos and stuff to make, so I'm breaking it down. You can expect a bunch of different videos, but the first one that we're going to talk about are my favorite series of 2023. Now, the reason that I'm doing a separate series video because I feel like every time I do like a favorites video, say for example the 23 favorite books that I read in 2023 video that I'm going to make, you will see that sometime during Bookmas. Instead of me counting a whole entire series as one book, we're gonna make this video where I talk about my favorite series. That way you guys know that these are some of my favorite things that I read this year. Now, there are actually only 7 series that I'm going to talk about. I honestly didn't even realize that this year wasn't much of a like series year for me. Last year was way more of a series year, and honestly I want next year to be more of a series year. How many times am I going to say that word in the span of this 30 seconds? I'm so sorry. But I feel like when you read a book, say it with me, series, it's a little bit more enjoyable because you spend so much time with characters that you know, and like I feel like you get more higher ratings out of those books and you just have a better time when you're reading them. Since there are only 7 of them, you know, there's not much to talk about, but still, let's chat about them. Also, all of the series that I'm talking about in today's video is me reading the entirety from start to finish of what is yet out, or the whole entire series in this year. I am going to make this fun, and this is a little bit of a ranking. I actually did rank these when I was writing them down. I do want to start from the bottom to the top. So coming in at number 7, we have, surprisingly, the Windy City series. Now, let's remove this one. We're really talking about these 2 books because these are some of my highest rated books of the year. Realistically, I really don't like Mile High, but I know a lot of people really do, and this is a part of the Windy City series, so it is Mile High, The Right Move, and Caught Up. These are basically interconnected standalones. You see glimpses of all of the characters. You guys know how that works. But these are basically a bunch of sports romances. The first one is hockey, the second one is basketball, and then the third one is baseball, and I'm pretty sure the fourth one is baseball as well. Honestly, the sports don't have a lot to do with the books, which is how I like my sports romances. Like, I don't need us to go into 3 to 4 pages of details about their games, okay? I just need to know that it's their profession. That's all I need to know, really. The male main character in these books, they're just both absolutely wonderful. And I love the 2 female main characters in these books as well. Just all around, I really like these, and I feel like these especially because both of the guy main characters are really good friends, so it connects in that way. But this book, it's like sunshine girl, kind of closed off guy. They both have like kind of traumatic past. This one is a single dad trope. He plays on the baseball team, and the female main character in this book turns out to be his nanny for the summer. It is just really good if you're looking for a good sports romance series. I would 100% recommend the Windy City series. Next up, coming in at number 6, which is honestly very surprising. If you would have told me last year around the fall time that this would have been one of my favorite series of 2024, I would have been like, I don't see how, and I don't know why. But coming in at number 6 is none other than the Magnolia Parks series, which this is actually Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates, but it all kind of falls under the umbrella of the Magnolia Parks series. However, if you don't know, we have Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates. They're, like I just said, it falls under the umbrella of Magnolia Parks, and they both all have the same characters in them, but Magnolia Parks is told in BJ and Magnolia's perspective, and Daisy Hates is Christian, Julian, and Daisy. It all involves the same exact group of people. There's different storylines too, obviously, since you're following different people. But last year I had just read Magnolia Parks, and it just wasn't my favorite book I'd ever read. I didn't see the hype with it, and I just kind of felt very indifferent towards it and decided that I wasn't going to continue on in the near future with the series. But then, of course, bestie Sarah found these books, and she became so utterly obsessed with them that I was like, you know what, I want to give them a second chance. And let me tell you, I fell headfirst in. However, I don't feel that I'm a Magnolia Parks girly. I feel that I am more of a Daisy Hates girly. I feel like you are either a Magnolia Parks and BJ, or you're a Christian and Daisy, or you're a Julian, and I'm 100% Team Julian. I am 100. He's like the only person that I truly, really care about in the whole entire series, and he is what makes this everything. Daisy Hates The Great Undoing is one of my favorite books of the entire year. Before I recommend you guys these though, I do want to say that this is not like your regular romance books. These books are toxic relationships. There's literally no communication. They're just like a bunch of rich socialites in London who make kind of like the worst decisions that you can really imagine. But it is so entertaining. Jessa Hastings' writing is genuinely some of the most lyrical and poetic that I have read. It is very, very good writing. Are the characters the most lovable of the time? No, but that's the point, okay? They're not supposed to be perfect. That is just something that when you read the series, I feel like you kind of have to come to terms with. But I would 100% recommend getting into it because it is so good. I feel like this is one of the best series that have that form of escapism into them. We're now in the top 5. So coming in at number 5, I feel like this is not very surprising, but we have the Chestnut Spring series. Now, I think I started reading this series in like March. The series is fully completed. There are 5 books in them. This is a cowboy romance series. I had never really been like a cowboy romance. Didn't really know what that was about. And then randomly, I couldn't even tell you how I remembered how I found the Chestnut Spring series. If you were scared of the whole entire cowboy romance thing, but you kind of want to get into it, I would 100% recommend this. Okay, 100%, because not all of them are like cowboys and it's not really what you're thinking. It's like small town, close-knit family. All of the characters are connected. It's funny and just, it's heartwarming, and they're just so like no brain power, just so enjoyable. Basically, we have Flawless, the first book. The guy in this book is a bull rider, and then in Heartless, he is like the ranch hand. And Powerless, he's actually a hockey player, and the girl's a ballerina. In Reckless, he's also a bull rider, and then in Hopeless, he used to be in the army, but something traumatic happened, and so now he's not. All of these books, like I said, kind of small town, but that's not how I'm gonna put it to you because you don't really feel like small town vibe. It's just such an enjoyable series, and if the trope of cowboy romance is scary you, I'm telling you, get into it. Honestly, if you're like, cowboy romance, I mean, it doesn't focus on it. It's just like their career. This one is just like bull riderkin. Okay, now coming in at number 4 is a series that I remember got so hyped on TikTok, and then I feel like everybody stopped talking about it after like the month that it was hyped up in. When I am looking back at all of the books that I read this year, this is a duology, but there's also like a little novella you can read in between, but it's pretty much a duology that I think was very well written, and I really, really liked the storyline. And when I look back at like my favorite books, these pop up, and that is none other than Crowns of, I think is it Nyxia? I don't know, but it is The Serpent and the Wings of Night and the Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. If you guys were on Book Talk around, gosh, what was that? March? Like March, April-ish? These books, specifically this one, were getting so hyped. Like, and now I don't see anybody talk about these books, like, at all. I see no one talk about them. But honestly, I feel like these are so well written, and I really, really liked them. Basically what it is, it's like, it's these world of kind of like vampire, but kind of fae, like at the same time. And they are competing in what's kind of like the Hunger Games. However, I do want to let it be known that this is an adult fantasy. This is not YA fantasy, this is adult fantasy, so the Hunger Games aspect of it is a little bit more played up in these books, and the language and just things that happen in this book are more adult. But this book just kept me on the edge of my seat, and I just remember really, really having a good time. I think I read both of these books, or maybe it was just this one in the search for a 5-star, this video where I was looking for a 5-star read. Guys, let me know in the new year if you guys want me to do a part 2 to that video of trying to do that again, because I feel like those videos are so fun, especially since I don't rate books 5 stars very often. And I just remember like having a really good time with this series, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. I feel like it got like its little moment of hype and then everybody stopped talking about it, but let's talk about it again. You guys need to read these if you want kind of like vampire, Hunger Games, forced proximity, enemies to lovers. If you guys liked all of that in fantasies, these are for you. Now, coming in at number 3, I feel like this is not surprising for literally anybody, but that is the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber. This is now a completed trilogy, so now is the time, if any, if you guys haven't read these books yet. If you are somebody who has been wanting to get into fantasy, but you're a little scared to get into fantasy, but you're very intrigued by it, I 100% recommend the Once Upon a Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber. Here is why. Because yes, it is fantasy, but it's also young adult, so it's more simply written, it's more simple to understand. And this one, there's not like politics and things like that. It's very storybook. Picture like Alice in Wonderland and kind of how that world is. Just very like a Disney princess movie. Once you get that, you just kind of understand that it's just a magical world. Everything else is pretty easy to understand with it. But I feel like it does introduce kind of like more mythological creatures and magic and different types of things that do happen in fantasy, but it's a little bit easier to understand. And also, this book is kind of like enemies to lovers. It's a little bit of a love triangle. It is just so good. In this series, you are following Evangeline, and Evangeline just kind of is this girl who just really wants to find true love. You're kind of following the story throughout these books of things that she gets into with other characters and missions that she used to go on to understand, like these things that she now has to do that she never even knew that was prophesized for her. So good. My favorite in this series is definitely The Ballad of Never After. Coming in at number 2, I am trying to remember what month it was that I read this series, but I pretty much read them all back to back. It is a series that I quite frequently find myself going back to and thinking about, and that is none other than The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. If you guys haven't read this yet, I even put this over The Inheritance Games in my mind. The Inheritance Games I really liked, but there are points in those books where I was just kind of like, okay, I don't really care about what's going on. Like, none of this is really keeping my attention. These books always had me on the edge of my seat. Honestly, this is YA, but sometimes some of the stuff that we were dealing with and talking about in this book, I was like, wow. I feel like even some like adult mysteries and stuff don't go here. Basically, if you guys want to know what The Natural series is about, imagine Criminal Minds, but a bunch of like 16, 17-year-olds that are basically recruited by the FBI and live in this house together, and they each have their own special set of skills. The main character that we're following, Cassie, she can basically profile serial killers very well, and there's a character, Dean, who can do the same thing. They can get into serial killers' minds and really understand them. And then we have a character who's really good with like numbers, statistics, and things like that. One character knows like when somebody's lying. Another character can read emotions very well. You are following in every single book. There is a different mystery that's going on, and it kind of connects with each character in the book, and it really hones in, I feel like, on their skill set, and you kind of learn more about that specific character. But they're all told in Cassie's point of view. They have me on the edge of my seat. I feel like there's always something going on, and you still get that same writing that Jennifer Lynn Barnes has that I feel like is very good. The short chapters, everything just kind of gets right to the point. I don't feel like there's a lot of detail that kind of just drags on. I feel like you always get just enough with her books, and I really enjoy them, and this was definitely, obviously, number 2 of my favorite series of the year. I find myself thinking back on these books all the time. They are so entertaining, and honestly, if you're in a book slump, I would always recommend anything Jennifer Lynn Barnes writes, because I feel like her writing is just so easy and everything is so fast. But this series, so good. If you haven't guessed the number 1 series that I read this year in 2023 yet, I don't know what you're doing, okay? Then maybe you don't know me. Hi, I'm Destiny. Here's my number 1 series of the year. Now, for those of you who still haven't guessed and have no clue what I'm holding in my hands, I feel like this is America's Next Top Model. I have one picture in my hands and 2 girls standing in front of me. That's what it feels like, does it not? If you haven't guessed yet, the series is none other than the Throne of Glass series. I read this entire series. Actually, I think I read Throne of Glass in December last year for a Bookmas video. Ever since I have read this perfection, I have not stopped thinking about it since. I don't think a day has gone by where Throne of Glass has not passed through my train of thought, and I genuinely think it changed me from who I am as a person. I genuinely think that I am not the same person I was before I read Throne of Glass. Please get into it, okay? Please get into it. I will say that the first 3 books in the series feel completely different from the rest of them, but not in a bad way. You fall in love with all of the characters. You get introduced to so many different characters in this series, but let me tell you, I am not complaining. I have an unhealthy attachment to literally so many characters just from this series alone. I love them so much. I feel like they are real people. I feel like I can go visit where these people are from. I feel like I can go visit them. And the barest way possible that I can tell you about this series is that you follow a girl who is a famous assassin. She's a very good assassin, and basically she is called to this kingdom to compete in what's kind of like the Hunger Games, but for assassins, to see who is the best assassin to be the king's assassin. I don't know what it is with me and saying, just repeating the same word over and over again, but that is basically, in very loose terms, all you need to know by going to the series. And I understand that you may be like, yeah, that doesn't sound very good. Just trust me. Those are all 7 of my favorite series of 2023. Obviously, I recommend you guys read all of them if you guys haven't read them yet. I am very jealous of any of you who haven't read any of these yet and you guys get to read them for the first time. I am so jealous of you because I wish I could go back and erase my memory of reading any of these books and read them for the first time because genuinely they are so good. And that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff that you guys know how to do. Thank you so much for tuning in for yet another Bookmas video. There's a lot more videos coming, so buckle in, grab some snacks, get ready because Bookmas is not anywhere over yet. And also remember that you guys have Vlogmas to look forward to for the last 12 days before Christmas Eve or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to put it up on the screen kind of what we're doing. But thank you guys so much for another amazing year, amazing reads to share with you guys. And with that being said, I will see you guys when I see ya. Peace!